All right, but Scott, on the second point, what is Calyx 5 doing for the
Yeah.
customer? Is it a 40% increase? I mean, because how much runway does this technology platform have in terms of improvement? This is like number one, right? Okay, it gives you 20 to 30%. That's huge, right? But is there a roadmap
Yeah.
on what you're working on to extend this thing and to really make it so that you're driving that cost down super hard?
Oh, absolutely. And there's a lot of when we think about the far future roadmap, there's some things I probably don't want to discuss, but just when you think about perovskites in general, they have much more headroom than silicon does in terms of their efficiency. And you're looking at high 30s conversion efficiency perovskites.
Hmm.
And that's where we're at now. There's some devices today that are already in the 30s that people are making a much smaller scale. Now everything we do is on this size, and our pilot line that we're ramping, that you saw my LinkedIn posting, will be at 1.5 square meters next year.
That's in
And so
Mississippi. So this is sort of
no,
interesting.
it's here. Oh, it's in LA.
Oh, I thought you were in Mississippi to look at a warehouse or something.
No, I've moved all the equipment that we bought from Mississippi over to LA.
Ah, okay,
Yeah, no,
okay,
it'll be in
okay,
Southern California. So when you come visit
okay.
us, it's not that far for you. Yeah,
Beautiful. I'll come and see it for sure.
absolutely.
It
No,
brings me to the point about REC. REC has
yeah,
manufacturing here in the country or no?
no, not yet.
Okay, because they didn't REC participate in the Southern California and the Oregon stuff from, I've even forgotten their name at this point. There was some manufacturing on the West Coast of solar modules, Carpinteria, and the place in Oregon, I've even forgotten it. But
Yeah, Solar World.
Solar World, that's right. Are
Yeah.
those assets still even available? And are internationals thinking of landing there?
Well, I would say that in general, in the trend, and I can't speak for Reliance's plans, and I probably shouldn't, but just in general, as part of what we've seen with the IRA legislation, and Caelux is very involved, even though we're a small company, we're very involved in crafting that legislation. We got to write 6 sentences of it, which set
A
the
lot.
stage quite nicely for us. Yeah. But it's a lot of interest coming from overseas participants to set up shop. Now, those assets, I don't know where they landed. And the truth is that it's cheaper for you if you're a crystalline silicon manufacturer, probably buy new, and just go that route. For us,
Mhm.
we have large PVD coating tools, and we're able to harness those, and so it made business sense for us to go leverage used assets. And we have a lot of new stuff we need to get to, but mostly around the perovskite deposition. But lasers and PVD tools make sense to leverage what's available because the lifetime on those coating tools is like 40 years. So like really long. Yeah, they stay very
Yeah.
viable for a very long period of
And
time.
and just for a break in this very exciting conversation is that you having a background from applied materials makes so much sense that this is your smooth path because applied is like better than notbody or
Yeah,
better than
yeah.
sorry better than everybody at doing this kind of thing where you're applying, deposing, sputtering, etc.
It feels like exactly what I should be doing. My wife and I, when I thought about taking this job, I thought, gosh, all that time in semiconductor process equipment, data storage process equipment, and then being with companies like Ehrlichien and Innovac that were in the solar side of things, and then my chemistry background, material science background. It was like, and then working at Flex and having a big renewable energy business, and scaling that from not a lot to quite a bit. It seemed great. This is exactly what I want to do. And, even now we're an international company, as small as we are, we've got an office in Taiwan that's, providing a lot of value to us in terms of strategic sourcing and market development. So, yeah, it's pretty
Oh, you're
cool.
building your sales force for Asia Pacific out of Taiwan.
Yeah. Well, I would say
Huh.
a bigger kind of like sourcing and things like that. Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
So it's
Got it.
and then process engineers and things of that nature where we support customers in Asia that be likely based out of there.
Right. Talk to me a little bit more because I think the IRA 22 and landing jobs here in the United States is I think it's a critical part of our American story of getting people back to work on the clean economy. Um, tell,
Yeah.
like, really sink into the business flow of you now have equipment that you've acquired from Mississippi coming to Pasadena or somewhere in Southern California, being set up, and you're going to make glass with perovskite on it, and then you're going to ship it to somebody where? You're going to go back to China with this glass?
Yeah.
Really?
No, not necessarily. No. So the idea for the concept of this first line is to prove the process, and there will be some international logistics that happen as we qualify it. The intent for this location is continue to be our center for development. And yes,
So
we will
MPI
be monetizing it. We'll be selling. Yeah, like day shift will always be R&D, NPI, and swings and nights will be always production. And we have an easy way for us to increment capacity relatively cheaply. For us, the economic constraint on a business like this is the PVD coaters. The actual production constraint is the perovskite deposition, and those are relatively inexpensive. And I should highlight, we're not making custom tools either. These are commercial off-the-shelf equipment that we're able to use in a particular way that develop the stuff that we need to make. The flat panel industry, they come out of the medical industry, they come out of the OLED industry. This is not like stuff we need to go and say, make me this custom piece of equipment. So that's super helpful. It allows it to scale. But the concept here is really about development. You can kind of think about it like a virtual factory. Processes will be developed here in Pasadena. This is where we've got a lot of brain power. The relationship with Caltech and other institutions is quite strong, and that helps us recruit and talent that we need for this type of work that we do. And plus, the Los Angeles metro area has more manufacturing jobs than any other county in the country, so we're able to reach out and get a fantastic manufacturing workforce relatively easily at a price point that's very viable. But that'll really be the focus here. And so ideally, I could see us transitioning from that development framework into supporting customers that are in Arizona, as an example. And we do know of a lot of PV activity happening there.
I mean, that's all going to take time to ramp up, though, right? I mean, that to be meaningful in terms of gigawatts, it's going to take time to have this story play out. And I was just trying to get the business flow for the next, say, 24 to 36 months of Caelux. It's really prove out Caelux 1. With some customers wherever they may be, lay that glass on top, have the PV underneath, 2 dual generators in isolation, combining voltage for a higher power module within the frame, and then transition into, can we support through IRA 22 finance mechanisms, which there are, it's a huge opportunity to make the United States a solar manufacturing center.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell me where you see the map. Where do you see the map here? Is it Arizona? I mean, you mentioned Arizona, but where are people thinking about landing solar capacity here?
Arizona, Texas, and the Southeast.
Southeast.
The Southeast will continue to be, I think, a very vibrant hub for PV manufacturing in the U.S. There's large manufacturing in Georgia and in Florida in particular. We'll see Texas taking off. We'll see Arizona taking off. Part of the reason why we decided to co-locate our R&D team with our manufacturing here is that for early stage companies, it's detrimental to go and have manufacturing too far away. If you need to fly to where your location is, just double your cost of ramp today. That's what it's going to take. That's what it is. You're going to deal with factory shutdowns and downtime that are just going to be impossible for you to overcome. So we wanted to co-locate pilot manufacturing with R&D so that we're able to troubleshoot immediately when process issues. And that's going to happen, right?
I have to laugh, Scott, because your best advice you gave our customer at the time was, let's ramp this here in Milpitas and do the NPI here. And everyone was like, no, let's go directly to Shenzhen. And I was like, but Scott's saying we shouldn't do that. Turned out to be completely right.
For some people it works. I mean, Apple's very proud of the fact that they were able to do what they did and just went directly there. But not everybody's Apple. That's a culture that took 30 years to build by the time they made that shift to doing what they do today in the phone space. But for new companies, and unfortunately, I've seen it where you have bifurcated R&D and production, and when you have that, the time zone difference alone is a killer to get anything done. Nobody wants to go fly anywhere to go solve problems because for good reasons. They got their kid's first baseball game. It's like, okay. Look, go work all day fixing this problem, then go to your kid's baseball game and come back again and don't have to miss those things. And that's the expectation of workforce today. I mean, people are very much in tune with having someone's balance. And I know in the Valley, we come from that fabric saying, no, work till you drop. But reality is quite a bit different, and you have to be able to find that balance, and driving that proximity for R&D and manufacturing in this initial stage was super important. But to your point, what's the 24-month plan look like? Launch Caelux 1 and sell. start selling product. In that time frame between 25 and 26 is going to be gigawatt ramp. And so we have a plan on how we're going to get to a gigawatt scale. And after 26, it's multi-gigawatt scale. So we want to be able to
domestic
prove product.
manufacturing, all manufacturing this glass with perovskite on it here in the
Not
United
all
States.
here. Not all here. No, there's definitely going to be a significant presence for us in India, as an example. I also see the company going to Southeast Asia. If LATAM turns back on again, and particularly, my experience in Brazil, we've had the largest PV manufacturing operation in the Southern Hemisphere at one point when I was at Flex. And I'm a big believer in the Brazilian solar market. If that turns on and our customers are there, we'll be there. And so we will have the ability to go in and deploy this coating operation, this perovskite deposition operation anywhere globally. And that's why we're like laser focused on CapEx reduction and direct materials costs harmonization and making sure we keep those costs down. Like our CapEx per watt is going to be 5 cents a watt. That's not a lot when you're talking about what we can do. When I started in the industry, it was $1 a watt, and we're all patting each other on the back how smart we were. It's 5 cents a watt perovskite deposition, and you compare that to a complete integrated, all the way from polysilicon through module, it's 15 cents a watt, which is great. But we can deliver that incremental capacity, and when you compare, what's interesting, because if you look at where silicon is today, silicon's kind of running out of steam. It's starting to get harder and harder to extract more and more efficiency out of silicon. And here's just a rough number for you. Go to Heather, it's about $150 million in CapEx for a gigawatt. And maybe it's a little less for some, but I'm just going to use 150 as an illustrative number. It's not too far off. So, and you'll get about a 2% improvement in silicon, 150 million in CapEx, 2% improvement. And people are making those investments all day. It makes sense for them. Get a 6% improvement with Caelux with a $50 million CapEx investment. Third the cost, 3x the performance. That's the math. And that's what tells us that, look, the fundamental economics are penciling out for us. And unlike some other technologies, their CapEx per watt was like 70 cents. That's hard. That's hard to scale. And to your point about IRA, it's massive because the implications for a company like us, 4 cents a watt, right? So every watt that we sell, we get 4 cents from Treasury. That's nice. Or it's a tax credit if we have a tax appetite in the future and doesn't leave until 2030. Very easy to start.
But you have to manufacture in the United States to capture that value.
You do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. But that's why I was wondering where your head's at in terms of where you're going to do the work.
Anything we manufacture in the US, we get 4 cents. But think about it from this standpoint that this credit actually puts us at cost parity with manufacturing in India.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Now, the difference between the two equations, though, is logistics at that point. So you got to solve for logistics. So, yeah, we could probably, from a cost of goods sold standpoint, have a similar cost structure to India. But now we've got to go put it on a boat to get where it needs to go. And that's not ideal. So that's why you want to manufacture close to where your customers are, because solar, every penny counts. And so you'd be really mindful. So I can see us having regional operations. I don't want to have a coder here and a coder there and that kind of a thing. That's just maddening. But having, let's say, regional Southeast Asia, regional India, regional US. The US might be split because we're a big country. We might have a West Coast, which I think this LA Metro location could really be quite powerful, or, and an East Coast operation. If we're able to do bimodal transportation, we will be able to. That may change that equation, but that's sort of how I think about it. Is regional manufacturing hubs, not necessarily.
Yeah, you also mentioned a couple of really important places. Texas, Georgia, Florida, Arizona. People don't really associate those places naturally towards the clean economy. Yeah. And, your work or your future work in these places is going to be politically very important.
Absolutely. And I had a conversation with Senator Ossoff about this probably 2 months ago after IRA was passed, and we'd worked on the SEMA provisions in IRA. And I had a great conversation with him, and he was very encouraging about, Georgia. And of course, I listened. And I think from a political standpoint, that's it's a purple state in very many, and maybe shaded a little bit differently depending upon who you ask. But we're starting to see that there's a recognition. Now he's a Democrat, but there's starting to be a recognition in traditionally red states that this is jobs. This is job creation and growth. And once you start employing people with good, well-paying jobs that are not just distribution, It's about manufacturing. I mean, case in point, LA's gotten the message, in the city that we are relocating to, our R&D and our manufacturing operations, has changed the zoning for everybody who has a warehouse. You are no longer a warehouse. You are now zoned for manufacturing. Anybody who comes in after you is now manufacturing, which is tells you something, because I think a lot of the communities are kind of done with the big distribution model, and we see fewer and fewer jobs in distribution now. That's becoming more automated, and likely should be. But how do you go and create these well-paying jobs where people have to have electromechanical skills, critical thinking, give people a pathway that's not necessarily you need to have a bachelor's degree, but you can come out of a tech school, you can come out of a high school that had a great tech program and get a great job that will last you your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of sounds like how we used to be. And I'm so excited about that possibility.
Mm-hmm.
And you start doing that. Now it's no longer, I think in my mind, maybe I'm just being kind of logical and naive, but it's no longer about, oh, well, I don't like solar technology because that's a Democrat technology. It's more like, oh, I hate other solar technology, but damn it, I love that plant that's employing 5,000 people that's in my district.
That's right. That's right.
That becomes, do that over and over again. I think there's definitely, and we have to deliver as an industry. We absolutely have to deliver on the job creation side.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm an independent politically.
Yeah.
Sadly, one of the teams seems to have more climate solution supporters than the other team at this point. But I completely agree with what you just said. The jobs will drive the interest and support. And, that's why I specifically asked about Georgia, Florida, Arizona, Texas. Those are some pretty important areas to be building jobs. Well, LA Basin, I mean, geez Louise. Yeah, right there for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful news. That's really great news.
And we're getting a lot of community support too. What's amazing about setting up operations here is the County of Los Angeles has like 3 different employment agencies that we're able to tap into to get quality candidates. And I just hired a procurement manager through that pipeline. And it's amazing. And they're engaged. They're like, yes, thank you. Bring these good jobs here. That's what we want. And we're going to help you. I mean, yes, California can be expensive, but it can also be pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. What a journey, man. What a journey. You start your career as a Navy submarine person, and you end up as the CEO of Heaven's Light. I don't know that we want to say it that way, because I think there was a cult that was called that or something. We're not going to give you a pair of Adidas and make you shave your head.
Yeah, I think that went poorly.
I think it ended poorly. Yes.
Yeah.
It really quite a journey, Scott. And the reference that I made before was you and I persevered through that SNEC breakdown, and it was really loud. And when you see this whole thing coming down, it's like you got to watch out for a 40-foot plywood wall falling on you, because they don't give too much to that. If you're in the way, you're in the way.
John and I were having a conversation, Kareem, and literally the top story of this very large booth just collapsed. And we went,
we might want to move.
We might want to get out of here.
Yeah. But in the dust, we were really, God, that was probably 2014, 2013, something like this. And,
exactly.
It was the beginning. It was the beginning of a long relationship. Thanks for making the time, Scott.